So welcome back to the second case of Favorite for Friday for this week. This case we're actually going to be going to Los Angeles. This case was pretty well known back then. I guess not as well known as the Rodney King beating because it kind of happened like right afterwards. But instead, it's kind of like this case is kind of like what sparked off the LA riots. So of course, if you were old enough to remember the LA riots, you might have remembered this name. If you're familiar with Tupac or Ice Cube, they wrote songs about this case. Or least songs about the victim, of course. Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting one. Let me know what you think, and let's just go and get started.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing?
So, of course, start off with the killer. At least what is known about her, because she was an immigrant from South Korea. Soo-ja Ju, we're going to call her Soon for the rest of this video, was allegedly born December 27th, 1941 in South Korea. On December 15th, 1958, she would marry her husband, Billy. I don't know if apparently his legal government name is Billy. I'm not even short for like William. It's actually Billy, so there you go. She would immigrate over to the United States with her 3 children, Joseph, Michael, and Sandy, in 1976, so she's around like 35 years old. Billy apparently worked as a radio repairman at Radio Shack. At the time, apparently, Sue was apparently just a housewife, not working, and letting the husband make all the money. And apparently it wasn't enough. I don't know if it wasn't enough to like make her happy, or it wasn't enough like they were struggling to pay the bills. But either way, she would start working as well. Apparently she starts working in a garment factory, being a couch assembler. And so apparently this was a popular thing at the time. I don't know why or even who started this, but apparently they wanted to own a corner store because apparently it didn't require a lot of money to start up, versus a lot of businesses typically do require a lot of money even back then. And you didn't have to speak a lot of English. And so in 1981 in San Bernardino, they would accomplish this. That same year, Sun would buy a gun from a friend, and she basically like would somehow get like the safety messed up, so that way the gun could fire easier, like a lot easier than it normally would, which that would come into play later. So remember that. 1981, this would come into play 10 years later, so remember that. So I don't know what happened, but they would sell this store in 1987 and then go buy another one in Sarah Clued. I think, yeah, that's how you say it. Their son, Joseph, worked in the market with them. The other son, Michael, apparently was working with Korean Airlines, which apparently that's like actual airlines for Korea. And I guess Sandy was considered their daughter, and the only daughter said they have was Sandy, so Sandy's working as a nurse. And so in 1989, Billy decided to build his market because apparently business was going well, and bought Empire Liquor Market for $380,000. And I guess Soon didn't like being in that neighborhood because it was said to be like a lower income black neighborhood. Well, it's predominantly black neighborhood. So she asked Billy, like, can we have a house closer to the beach so we can go fishing and stuff, basically like get away from this neighborhood. And then Billy tries to reassure her, like, you know, like, LA can't be that bad. They would eventually have a problem with the Crips, which obviously the Crips, that's like a notorious gang. Apparently in early 1991, 3 alleged members of the Crips had apparently robbed the store. The police were obviously called, as you would when a robbery happens. All 3 were arrested. The Crips would come back and threaten to kill the family. The family has the store shut down for 2 weeks out of fear, because again, if someone threatens to kill you, you're obviously going to be scared. Billy had even tried to set a truce with the Crips, like basically to like, I guess, like put tension down and let bygones be bygones, but they was like, nah. And so they basically was stuck with the Crips as, I guess, rivals, because you kind of snitched and the boys are now in jail. And Joseph and Soon wanted Billy to sell the place because obviously they're scared for their lives at this point. Nobody apparently would want to buy the building for how much Billy had set it for. I don't know if he had to set it the price he bought it for, even higher. But apparently, whatever it was, nobody's want to buy it. And so, of course, on the morning of March 16, 1991, in walks in Latasha Harlins. And so you got Latasha LaVon Harlins, who was born on January 1st, 1976, in East St. Louis, Illinois, to Crystal Harlins and Sylvester Akoff Sr. She would have 2, I guess, younger siblings, so she's the oldest. And so it's Sylvester Jr. and Christina. And so when she was 5 in like 1981, her family would move to LA. 2 years later, in 1983, Crystal and Sylvester Sr. were divorced, with obviously Crystal getting custody of Latasha, Sylvester Jr., and Christina. So then she gets a restraining order on Sylvester Sr. because apparently he is abusive. That restraining order obviously does not work, as it does in some cases. You know, that sadly they don't care either. It's a restraining order, I guess. So, despite the restraining order, she still was getting beaten by Sylvester. Sadly, on November 27th, 1985, she would be sadly murdered around 2 a.m. outside a local nightclub by her Sylvester's girlfriend at the time, Cora Mae Anderson. Cora Mae Anderson would only get charged with, I think, voluntary manslaughter and basically only served like 5 years in prison. Family's obviously very upset. This would be the only tragedy that comes to her family. Custody then went to grandmother Ruth, who apparently was working with the Department of Social Services. In middle school, she was said to be an art student doing track and cheerleading. During freshman year, I don't know exactly what happened, but apparently her grades were slipping and she was skipping school. However, when she did attend school, she was said to be a nightmare. Sadly, despite being 14, it is alleged, because I only see this on a couple sources, it is alleged that Latasha apparently had been groomed by a counselor by the name of Jerry Young, when he apparently around the time was between the ages of 29 and 32. And so here we are back to the morning of March 16, 1991. The grandmother Ruth, she basically wants some orange juice. I guess she didn't want to leave the kids by himself, as any good mother figure would. So that she sends, like, I guess the boy in the house to go get it. He doesn't want to do it. Latasha eventually goes to go get the orange juice. She goes to Empire Liquor Market, which is where Soon and Latasha meet, I guess. Around 9:31 a.m., Latasha had apparently walked into the store wearing a UCLA cap and sneakers. Allegedly, Soon's son, we're going to assume Joseph here. Joseph apparently warned Soon that this is the type of clothing that gangsters wear. So apparently Soon was obviously concerned, because if this is what her son had told her, and you see somebody wearing this type of clothing, she's going to be concerned. Latasha grabs the orange juice, puts it in the side of her backpack, I guess where Soon can't see it, and she has the money out. She walks up to the counter. Soon apparently accuses her of stealing. She would later claim Latasha said, "What orange juice?" But witnesses says she didn't say that. That Soon had just called her a bitch, and then tried to take the orange juice from her, like from her backpack, grabbed her backpack. So then Latasha had apparently like hit Soon a couple of times in the face. In the video, it shows that Soon had apparently threw a stool at Latasha, and then Latasha had like put the orange juice on the counter and then was trying to walk away, be the bigger person here. And I guess she was gonna take her business somewhere else, which, you know, as you would, because you don't want to give your service to people who are gonna be racist. So she turns around away from Soon, and sadly Soon would shoot her in the back of the head, basically killing her right away. Billy comes inside because I guess he heard the gunshot. Soon would apparently say that, like, where was the girl? And she was just right here, and apparently she passes out. So then Billy calls 911 saying there was an attempted robbery, which we obviously know is BS. But he says it's attempted robbery. Police officers show up. They get medical help for Soon because she is passed the fuck out. Police see the money, like the $2, because the orange juice is $1.79. So they see the $2 in Latasha's hand. Is like she was gonna pay for it, and they see surveillance camera, and even so, she was turning around when she got shot. So that's obviously not self-defense. This is actually what's sad. Apparently, she didn't have any identification on her because she didn't have her backpack when she died. There was no identification. There was no name. Nothing. So they took a picture of her after she had died. It was just showing her around the neighborhood. Because this is a neighborhood where apparently everybody knew each other. So they was going around the neighborhood. They was like, "Do you recognize this person?" And eventually they get to somebody's house. And that person leads them to Ruth's house. And they go to Ruth. And Ruth sadly has to identify her dead daughter based on a photo of her after she had passed. So then, of course, she's emotional. The whole family is emotional, reasonably. And the Rodney King meeting had apparently happened 13 days before this, so they still were covering Rodney King. And it wasn't until after Soon was charged with Latasha's death 3 days later that it would go to the LA Times, you know, etc. And that's where Latasha's story started being pushed out. And so, of course, people are angry. Basically, it said it caused a lot of people to snap because, like, first Rodney King and now this girl just got killed on some orange juice. Like, no. Apparently, Latasha must have been, like, very popular, I guess, in school or something, because more than 200 of her classmates went asked, like, was Latasha killed because of racial intolerance? And when will the racial intolerance stop? So, yeah. The trial would get moved to downtown LA, which apparently, I guess, it's like basically, like, they basically were trying to get the trial out of the ghetto because, Court staff and witnesses would feel intimidated going through those streets every day, like nearby the streets where Latasha I guess, was living where she'd been killed at. And then at trial, Soon would claim self-defense and basically said she thought Latasha had a gun in her backpack. However, the video also shows that she'd been walking away when she had been shot. Oh yeah, by the way, the video was shown apparently multiple times during the trial. And apparently, sometime before being sentenced, she would admit to the bailiff that black people scared her and that she didn't understand them. And that if she could go back in time, she wouldn't change anything. The jury obviously sees through her bullshit and apparently somehow are only able to charge her with involuntary manslaughter, and that's a 16-year maximum. So even if she did serve the full 16 years, she would be out by now. So she would have been out at like 2007 at the latest, assuming they didn't let her out earlier. She would be out living her life, even if she did get the 16 years. And so Judge Joyce Carlin, who apparently was over the case, she threw all that out and said, screw that. And then Soon would get 5 years probation, 400 hours of community service, and a $500 fine. Apparently, I don't know what the hell Joyce Carlin was smoking, but apparently she said that $500 was going to restitution for Latasha's family to pay for funeral expenses and medical costs. And I know even back then, those were high. So, Crystal's sister, so Latasha's aunt, Denise, obviously was very upset by the verdict. Hell, the whole family was upset, but especially Denise and Bruce. Denise would set up these marches to go get justice for her murdered niece. Because you can't get justice for the sister, because the sister, her killer, has already spent time in prison, and I assume was already out when the murder happened. So apparently somehow they find out where Joyce Carlin lives. They go to her courtroom and her home to protest, basically like give like her a piece of their mind, like, you know, like this isn't right what you did. And some Koreans, I know it's other like Asian Americans as well. There are other, like, Asian, like, oh my gosh, I'm trying not to sound racist right now. Like, I know there are other Asian groups other than Koreans during this time, but it was predominantly Korean. That's why I'm saying Korean, okay? So, they did not agree with the verdict. They, obviously, even though they a good portion of them were kind of racist, not gonna lie. Some of them actually did not agree with the verdict. And they were like, we're not trying to get murdered. We're not trying to get, Basically, they're not trying to get any smoke. If I'm saying this in a modern way, they basically are not trying to get any smoke for anything that Soon has done. So what Soon did don't reflect all of us, basically. So, of course, LAPD, because remember this did happen in Los Angeles, and the Korean American Grocery Association. So, like I said, a lot of Koreans are opening up grocery stores and shit. So that's why they have a whole ass association. They were saying this is a disagreement between two parties and not a racially motivated event. So then, of course, people don't believe this shit. It's obviously some bullshit. They're trying to calm people down. Doesn't work. And actually causes more tension. Picket signs will be made with Latasha's name on them for protest. More than 2,300 Korean-owned businesses would be looted and burned. The Empire liquor market would actually be set on fire at least 4 times that we know of. It was always put out before it get too bad because apparently they were smart to put insurance on their building. But the neighbors didn't want them like claiming the insurance money. So, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently in June of that same year, because we were still in 1991, apparently another Korean store owner had killed a black man because he claimed the black man was trying to rob him. No charges were filed against him. And again, I don't know if it's true because I don't even have a name or anything to go off of. So, apparently that was also a motivator as to, like, why people were kind of rioting against this. Several months later, the 4 cops that apparently were involved in the Rodney King meeting were all acquitted. Somehow. This with Latasha's death did cause apparently the LA riots with more than 3,000 buildings being destroyed. Allegedly, I didn't do much research into LA riots. I just was spoken on Latasha's death, okay? So apparently it cost like more than $1 billion in damage because I guess LA is like really expensive. And I think at least 50 people died. And like a whole bunch injured. And I think at least a good chunk of people arrested too. And so, yeah, a bunch of the 3,000 buildings that were destroyed were obviously Korean-owned. This was included the Empire. It was eventually burned to the ground. So it did survive, like, at least 4 attempted burn downs that we know about. But I guess it finally did get burned to the ground. Years later, the Judge Joyce Carlin, she would basically lash out at the media saying that she was comfortable with the verdict that she made and that we should stop focusing on racism so much. Luckily, she did resign from her seat in 1997. So even though she is no longer like in office, sadly, she is still alive. Yeah, that's that. Latasha's family would get awarded the $300,000 that was supposed to go to the store. So somehow, through some legal process, they was able to take the insurance money supposed to go to the store. They sent it to Latasha's family instead. The dad, once he heard the family was getting, apparently it was supposed to be split between her siblings, so Sylvester Jr. and Christina. Once Sylvester Sr. found out, he was like, wait a minute, I want a cut. I'm her father. And so apparently he tried to sue to get his little cut. The judge was like, you ain't seen her since 1985, since when her mama died, and you didn't even go to the funeral, so you definitely get no money. So of course Sylvester Sr. didn't get shit. And apparently he got arrested because he had a warrant out for his arrest for weed possession. So yeah, that's Sylvester Sr. Apparently he's still alive too. Ruth's still alive. Denise apparently did start, her aunt Denise did start a foundation in memory of Latasha. The artist Tupac did write several songs about her. One being, I think the one I keep singing a lot is Keep Your Head Up. But there's like at least 4 confirmed songs about Latasha that Tupac himself wrote. And apparently he even mentioned her in an interview. So I guess he really wanted to keep her name alive. And a lot of people actually only know about Latasha, from what I've heard, because of Tupac. I guess Tupac did technically do his job because he wanted to keep her name alive. And a lot of people found out about her case because of Tupac. So he did his job, basically. And then you got Ice Cube. He apparently had wrote Black Korea about her. In the cemetery that she is supposed to be buried in, she's buried next to her mother. But apparently in the late 90s, there was a scandal going on where they were digging up bones from that cemetery and basically reselling graves. And it's believed that her grave was one of hundreds. Her grave was sadly one of the hundreds graves that were dug up. That means that her remains were basically put into a mass pile. A 2017 article that was found says that Soon apparently is still alive and like her 80, well, it said late 70s, but she said if she was still alive right now in 2023, she'd be in her 80s. And San Fernando Valley, so didn't even leave California. On Christmas Day, or maybe the 26th, one of the two, but we're going to go with Christmas Day. So Christmas Day 2018, Denise would sadly die of congestive heart failure. So there is a documentary apparently on Netflix. It's still available because at the day of this video, I watched it like literally 2 days ago. So once they take it down, it should still be available. Her childhood best friend would admit that she went to the same store, Empire Liquor Market, months before Latasha died. And there was an incident that is not in the articles, but she does mention the documentary. So I'm not going to say it did happen. I don't know, because it doesn't mention any articles. Granted, you could have kept that private all these years. She honestly could have. I could believe that. It's just, I'm going to tell you what happened, and I guess you could tell me whether you think it actually happened or not. So basically what happened was she was with her brother and her mother. So it's her brother, mother, and her. They're at the store. She would have got candy for, I guess, her kids, you know, as mothers do. And she forgot to get her brother one. So I guess she didn't want the brother to feel left out because obviously he would feel some type of way, you know, as kids do. So she's like, go back to the store and get some more candy. Now she makes the mistake of bringing back in the bag. The bag has the receipt in it to prove she paid for the stuff so that way she didn't steal nothing. And Soon apparently was working the counter this day. Because I don't know where the fuck Billy is, but Soon apparently was working the counter that day. And her head is down, but she's counting money. So her head is down, she's counting the money. And out of nowhere, she hears this random woman behind her yelling. And she claims the woman is a hooker. Now, is the woman actually a hooker? She probably was. Because again, this is Los Angeles. We ain't got the woman's testimony. We don't know if the woman's still alive. We ain't got a name. She may not have been a hooker. She may have just been dressed very promiscuous that day. And so, anyway, so yeah. So she is looking down, getting the candy. Woman's yelling. And the woman's yelling like, you know, like put it away. Like it's not that serious. And she looks up and she sees Soon with a gun pointed right at her head. And apparently she's looking up right at the barrel of the gun. So then the woman, I don't even want to call her hooker because she might not even be a hooker. The woman that basically intervenes, she runs out. She goes against the mom. The mom, I don't know what she told the mom, but the mom will rush back in. And she like gets Soon to put the gun down. And basically pulls out the receipt. Out the bag to prove she paid for it. She got the money to pay for the candy bar. I don't even know if they even bought the candy bar after that. But they took the candy that they did already buy, and she said, "Don't come back to the store and tell all your little friends don't come back to the store either, because she almost could have got killed had that woman not come in. She basically would have been Latasha pretty much, and so had it not been for that woman." What would have been her 45th birthday? Apparently, there was a mural made in her memory. And apparently the part that she was often played at as a child would be named after her. It is still that current name to this day. And so, yeah, that is the, I guess, lesser known case of Latasha Harlins. I definitely thought it was an interesting case, a very tragic case, but definitely very interesting. If you hear any more cases like, I guess, like this that you think I should cover, of course, let me know. And I'll see you fans on the next one. Bye.